Thomas! It's up for grabs now!
Magic ball from Bergkamp to Patrick Vieira!
Oh, would you believe it? Oh, right, what a way to get it!
Fabulous solo goal by Thierry Henry.
Champions.
Back in, there you go. Smooth as. Good evening. Welcome to the Arsenal Lounge, a special edition of the Arsenal Lounge on the back of an excellent and dominant display in the North London derby. I'm sure you're all excited to talk about it. We're a little bit thin on the squad today. There's only us two here at the moment, but we're here and we're representing. So Mo, how are you doing after yesterday?
Just like over the moon. You know, obviously over the moon, right? But
Yep.
not in the way that I thought I'd be. Like, I'm not bouncing off the walls, really, really buzzing. But I'll explain why that is for anyone that kind of watch my fan cam, they'll already know. But yeah, I was just really happy, man, and like feeling properly smug.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's funny you say that. I feel kind of the same. Like I'm typically really nervous on North London Derby Day, and stressed and all of that. But yeah, I guess now that you mention it, I think sort of 10-15 minutes into the game, all my nerves sort of went, and we just looked like we were in control. We'll go into it in a minute, but before we do, a big hello to everyone in our chats already: Hugh, Daryl, Guna, Greg, Steve, RFC, True Guna, GB, the Visionites. I haven't seen you for a little while, bro. Good to see you. So listen, obviously, let us know how you're feeling about it. But yeah, I mean, Mo, I gotta say, I mean, it was dominant, and now that you mention it, I do feel a little bit like that sort of today. I haven't even bothered texting any of my friends that are Spurs fans. So I mean, let's get into it, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
you was there, I'm guessing, right?
no, unfortunately, I couldn't.
No.
I mean, I would have been very hard to get a ticket anyway, but unfortunately, I had other commitments that meant that I wouldn't have enough time to get to the ground. So I just had to watch it at home. So I left somewhere early, dragged it home, got in front of the TV and watched the game. And I was gutted because I was there last season, man. And that was a really, like, just a complete opposite. That was not keeping our heads. Rob Holding doing what he did. What was at stake on that day was huge, and we absolutely messed it up. And then you contrast that with what we did yesterday, where Man City have just lost, and they kind of like plugged the gap a little bit. Let's not forget, when we drew to Newcastle, they plugged the gap a little bit, and some people were kind of thinking, oh, here we go. Difficult run of games for Arsenal: Brighton away, Newcastle at home, Tottenham away, Man United at home. That will test them, and Man City will claw it back. Man City got the 1-0 away win against Chelsea. That was like them grinding out 3 points. That was like a real sign of them saying, we're the real deal. This is what title-winning teams do. And I kind of felt like maybe people felt like, oh, that tide might be turning a little bit now, where Arsenal might come up against some difficult teams and struggle, and Man City will come up some difficult teams and show them how it's done. But then look, it's all flipped again. We play Tottenham away, they play Man United away, and we do the business and they don't. They even went 1-0 up. And listen, don't get me wrong, they had like a horrendous decision go against them.
Oh, that was awful, that decision. Yeah. Like, how they got only at Old Trafford can you get a decision like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if that had happened the other way, if that was Kevin De Bruyne in Rashford's position and Haaland runs up and smashes it in, that's getting disallowed every day of the week at Old Trafford.
All day long. If that was us, that definitely gets disallowed.
Yeah, absolutely. And an FA charge as well. But the thing is, look, Man City had the opportunity to close the game out at 1-0 up, and they had the opportunity to come back when that goal was scored. They didn't do it. Arsenal, on the other hand, did we ever really feel like Tottenham were going to score? Even though Ramsdale did brilliantly and kept a clean sheet with an expected goals against of like 2.4 or something like that, I still never felt like Arsenal were under threat for some reason. We exercised dominance and control.
Do you know what? I mean, we'll go into it, really. I mean, let's be honest, the way the media sort of plays this with Arsenal, they're still waiting on us to sort of falter at some point. So it's almost like they're waiting with the fixtures as well. So you had the Man United game with Man City. Obviously, the media darlings, Man United get a result. Now you could see that, you could almost feel the tingling in the air when you're watching the build up of the game on Sky, that they're wanting this to go against us, so that Man United are back in the title race officially. So there was a big build up to the game. Obviously, Spurs they changed things around a little bit. They had debutant Zaha in the midfield making his debut in such a big game. That was quite surprising. They had Sessegnon against Saka. We had our normal lineup. I mean, it's the way it started for me. It was kind of really obvious that we were confident at the very beginning. So we were playing out from the back in such a calm manner in that game. Like when we first started, we were playing it out from the back, and it just felt like we were adamant and playing our own game. And we started to sort of build on this momentum. The midfield we started to win over with Partey as the game went on. Partey started to dominate. We were leaving. It looked like to me Højbjerg and Sarr did not have a clue as to what to do with that midfield, especially with the extra man with Zinchenko coming in, making that fourth man in the middle. They were really struggling with our midfield. We started to dominate. A horrendous mistake by Lloris. Yeah. I could sort of double take to sort of understand how that went in. Everyone was kind of shocked, but there was no shock in the sense of the way we dominated that first half. That is one of the most dominant first half displays I've seen in London Derby ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Ødegaard, the way he was pulling the strings, he is on top form at the moment. And that is not why Shaheen's not here, by the way, everyone in the chat. I know someone from Chelsea didn't swoop in last minute and grab him. He's just on holiday at the moment. But, I mean, run me through how you saw the game. I'll be really interested to see how you saw the game and some of the duels that were won. I mean, Saliba had, I think this time around, was on Son rather than Kane, and it seemed like Gabriel was more on Kane this time around, and it just seemed like we got the balance perfect. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on it first, really.
Yeah, I mean, look, I just felt like the first half was perhaps the best first half of football I've seen from Arsenal in the Premier League this season. I just thought it was utter dominance. And, you know, I've mentioned many times on my 5 at 5s that I do after the day after every game, right, about how Arsenal assert themselves at the start of each half. And when you look at Arsenal's record in the first 15 minutes of each half in the Premier League, there's no team that's performed better than us. Now, we started the game so well, and then we got even better from the 15th to the 25th minute. And I just felt like we just didn't allow Tottenham to get any momentum. Now, we were playing so well. The football was so good. That first half, I was so impressed. I thought Thomas Partey, his performance, man, was so good. Ødegaard, real willingness to shoot. Bukayo Saka, real variations in his game, coming short, going long. And also, it'd been like Sessegnon had been told, do not let him cut inside on his left foot. So what does Saka do? He says, all right, I'll go on my right. And it was like, you leave me all that space, I'll just put it in. He just did the simple things really well. There was nothing there. And I think like actually it's a really good lesson for like any young wingers out there, because, you know, he didn't try and like do any fancy tricks. He wasn't kind of thinking, all right, I need to bring out my inner Ronaldinho. It was just like, all right, fine, I'll attack that space. Where you're giving me the space, that's where I'll go. That's where I'll do damage. And, you know, that's why from that first goal, when you analyze that properly, Sessegnon, his positioning, he's left a huge gap for Saka to play in that ball. And then by the time Saka says, fine, I'll take you up on your offer, and plays that ball in, he's had to lunge. You can only get a deflection. And that deflection is the thing that's thrown off Lloris. And then it's gone, you know, they've scored an own goal. So I really enjoyed Saka's performance there. And Xhaka, again, you know, when was the last time anyone complained about Granit Xhaka? When was the last time he did anything stupid? And you can see Mikel Arteta was like, at the end of the game, running over to Xhaka because he knows he's still got that in it. But I actually thought that was a really good, visible piece of Arteta on Xhaka management. That for me gives me a clue of what's been going on behind the scenes. I think Arteta has been absolutely man-marking Xhaka in terms of, he knows what Xhaka can do to let himself down. And that was like, on this occasion, he had to do it in front of 60,000 people and the millions watching and grab him away. So I think that he's done a brilliant job of Granit Xhaka. That was a outward display of that. Gabriel on Kane, he didn't have it all his own way. I'm not going to say Gabriel had it all his own way, but I think he did brilliantly against Kane. He gave away 4 fouls and he won 3 fouls in the game, Gabriel. But that's what you need to do against Harry Kane. You were going to give away fouls against Harry Kane because Harry Kane's a sly little Tottenham player. And so clearly you're going to end up giving away some fouls, but Gabriel just did brilliantly against him. He really, really did well. And you're right. That's how I viewed it as well. It was Gabriel and Kane. Saliba was more on, space and Son. And I just, honestly, I just couldn't be any more complimentary. And I haven't even spoken about Aaron Ramsdale. I'd love to know the stats of in any game this season, what's the most a keeper's faced expected goals against and still managed to keep a clean sheet? Because I thought Ramsdale was fantastic, man. Absolutely brilliant.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned, touching on Ramsdale first, I didn't expect to go here, but we're just going to go with the flow. But Ramsdale, a bit like Arsenal in general, I don't feel he gets the credit he deserves, because if you've looked at some of these so-called top goalies in the Premier this season, Alisson at Liverpool, you've got De Gea at Man United, Lloris, obviously yesterday as well. They've all been seen to make huge errors recently, letting in some really important goals. It was only the other day I witnessed De Gea letting the ball go through his legs like he was a drunk and it going in. And as bad, even if when Ramsdale has one of his off days, it's very rare that you see him make a big blunder. Touch wood, I don't want to jinx him yet. But yesterday, even though we were by far the best team on that pitch yesterday, Ramsdale, ironically, still makes man of the match. And Absolutely. Why is that? Because he made those pivotal saves at the moments. The one Kane just before half time, he's made that. Then he's made one against the Son one. Yeah, he's made that one against Son. The one against here was me thinking it was a brilliant save against Sessegnon in the second half, but I've since seen the videos going around of Ben White screaming at Sessegnon before his shot. Have you seen that, Mo?
No.
Oh my god, it's like something from Playground days or where he's just about to shoot and the shithousery, he's screaming at him to put him off. But yeah, Ramsdale was brilliant.
I love that. For anyone watching, right, if you play five-a-side, do this. I do this every single time an opposition player is about to shoot. As soon as they're about to pull the trigger, or when they're thinking like, oh, next stride, I'm planting my foot to take a shot, I'm like, man on! And it's perfectly legal. You're allowed to do it. And they think they've got time, if they know they've beaten the line, and then they panic. And it's brilliant. And I love seeing it. I love seeing that at the top level. I think that's so funny that Ben White is still doing all of that stuff because it worked.
It was brilliant. And it just shows that, the team is so desperate to win that we're willing to just go as far as we need to win within reason. But what stood out for me is more so how much this team has progressed from last season. It wasn't that long ago we went to White Hart Lane last season needing a result and flopped. This team have gone over there and not only have they won, but they enforced their game onto Tottenham and they played the way they were going to play. There's a great bit of footage, a picture I've seen from the dressing room with Gabriel. I don't know if you've seen that either. I think I actually clicked it. Let's have a look. Where there's a picture of them in the dressing room. Here it is. And you can see in the top behind Gabriel, it says identity. And that word is full with the players in that. And it's basically, that was what we did yesterday. We enforced our own identity to that game. And we were saying, this is the way we're going to play. We're not going to let Spurs rattle us. I love the tactical changes that Arteta made yesterday. I think Saliba was really smart in nullifying Son in the space where he likes to thrive. I love the way that you're right. he didn't win all of it, but he did. Gabriel, what he did yesterday is he put Kane off his game, because Kane, as he's got older, he comes a little bit deeper, doesn't he, to influence the game, hold the ball up, draw a foul, play the others in, maybe play Son in behind, and wherever Kane went, Gabriel was there. But then Ødegaard, the way he was orchestrating things and the passes he was picking, that the shot from Partey yesterday, that volley, if that had gone in, my goodness,
would have been one of the best all-time North London derby goals.
We would have had to change our intro if that goal had gone in.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
Seriously, because that was a ridiculous strike. But just the way in general we dominated the play. And then second half, it was almost a tale of two halves, because first half we dominated. Second half, we had to really dig in. And that was my concern second half is, you've got that PTSD as a fan. What if Spurs get that early goal? And then we're going to be... We really dug in, and it was like we were defending for our lives. It was like we were really... And to be fair, I'll have to say this as well. I mean, I've had to say my apologies to Xhaka over the last year or so, and we've all had probably as fans. The way he's changed his game and reformed himself as a player playing in that new position, he's immense. And the way he is almost the man, the captain of that team. Let's be honest, the way he holds things together. But then you got Eddie, who I've been really critical of Eddie. And don't get me wrong, I still have my doubts in front of goal at the moment. He had a couple of chances. He probably would admit himself he should have scored. One in the first half where he should have put it away when Martinelli flipped it over and he had a volley and he hit it straight at Lloris. And the other one, second half, when he was played through and his touch let him down. But that aside, the way he led the line, he has definitely come on leaps and bounds as a hold-up player. His physicality is improved. I've seen pictures of him from being a skinny young lad to he's really piled on some muscle as well. So, I mean, you've got to give Eddie some credit as well, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Eddie's been really good. And I've watched Eddie a lot in the youth team, and I've been on a real journey with him, because he was one player that I picked out and said he will make it. I think he's really, really good. And I used to say, I can't believe Chelsea let him go from their youth setup, because I saw a real clinical player in Eddie Nketiah. And you know what? It's very interesting, because the reason why I always pinpointed Eddie as a player that will make it from the academy to the first team is because he's got that killer instinct. And now when I watch him play, I'm like, no, don't get me wrong, he's still very good in the area. But now it's like, actually, no, I'm not seeing the player that I saw in the youth team. The killer instinct isn't as sharp as what I thought it would be. It's actually your all-round game now that's really improved. I think he's put in a lot of work over the last year or two to, improve the other elements of his game. Because the reality is, right, in the modern day, if you're not scoring goals, because every striker will have a few games where they don't score, they might not get a chance or it might not go their way, you've got to be helping the team out. It's very, very rare. Only the players like, Haaland, real sort of generational talents in the real top teams can get away with that. Or if you're flipping Ronaldo, you can go off to Saudi and do it, But it's not common, because ultimately Ronaldo couldn't do that at Man United anymore, could he? He wasn't doing enough. So they were like, that's it. You're not helping the team. So it's very rare. And I think Eddie Nketiah has done himself a massive favour by adapting his game to make sure that he can benefit the team in other ways. Because his hold-up play, the way he runs the channels, is actually very, very good. His pressing, I still think a bit more work can be done, but still very good. So I'm really happy for him, man. I'm really, really happy for him, because I always give a bit more patience and time to Hale-end graduates. And I don't feel like that's always the case. And it must be hard for him to kind of see Saka and Smith Rowe getting so much love and him kind of feeling like he's getting a bit of stick from the fans. So yeah, brilliant for him, man. I think he's really repaying the faith. And I would always sometimes it's interesting to ask a question that makes people look at something in a different way, right? So let's say, for example, we signed Mudryk 5 games ago, and Mudryk came in and has been playing like Eddie Nketiah has been playing, scoring 4 goals and, the general play. I think we'd all be saying he's hit the ground running. He's done brilliantly. So I'm not saying it is like a new signing. I'm not saying that at all. That line is jarring for people.
Oh, God,
what I am saying is that, we wouldn't be saying about a new signing, oh yeah, but is it going to last, or, casting doubt. We'd just be excited. So that's where I am with Eddie Nketiah. I'm looking at him thinking, this is when you had your chance and you had to respond to pressure and you're playing difficult games. It's not that you've got easy games like appeared for you. Jesus has gone out at an important time of the season where we've had to bounce back from that gap in our season where we were playing really, really well. And we've got to do it with a different person up front against difficult teams. He's done it, man. I'm excited by his performances and I'm buzzing for him.
Yeah, listen, I mean, you got to give him props. His all-round game has improved. I still am a little concerned that at the moment, he's not finishing all the chances. Well, not all of them. You can't ask him to finish all the chances. It's unfair. But he's had a couple of clean-cut chances. He should have put at least one away yesterday. In the big games, you've got to be taking those chances. We've got a big game coming up against United. Hopefully, we'll go into that in a bit. But, I mean, I'd like to do some player ratings with you quickly, Mo. We'll just run through them between me and you. Ramsdale, starting with Ramsdale. Unbelievable shithousery. Brilliant. We know what happened after. We'll discuss that in a second as well. But clearly he's wound up the fans. He's wound up the pigeon himself, Richarlison as well. That's what they're calling him now. So I thought he looked more like a gecko, but everyone's saying he's a pigeon. But Ramsdale, what would you give him out of 10 for that performance?
It's a 10. It's absolutely a 10. Not just because of like what he did during the game, but he should be called Saint Ramsdale now. The way he stayed calm in the face of provocation, seriously, that is unbelievably impressive. So yeah, it's Saint Aaron Ramsdale as far as I'm concerned now. He did really, really well not to, do something silly with Richarlison, who was massively antagonizing him, and just staying calm, just saying, mate, I'm going to go get my bottle. Mate, I'm just going to go get my gloves and just relaxing, which is brilliant because you can imagine how much it would have kicked off if he had done something. And listen, if he had put his head into Richarlison or something like that, I'm sure Richarlison would have gone down like a pile of bricks, and the fans right there would have been really animated. He did really, really well to handle that situation. So 10 from me. 10.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I mean, look, you've got to say he made the pivotal saves when he needed to. To be honest, that is probably one of the most complete goalkeeping displays I've seen from Ramsdale since we've signed him. I mean, he has had he's a young goalkeeper, so he's going to make a few errors, and he's had a few sort of heart in mouth moments with his distribution, and that's the way he's been asked to play. Let's be honest. He can be a little bit dangerous in those aspects, but yesterday he was phenomenal. I wouldn't go as far as giving him a 10 yet. I'll probably say 9, but he was brilliant. We'll go on to who should we go next? Ben White.
He was
unsung hero this season for me, Ben White. Unbelievable.
Yeah. You take it. You take the Ben White.
I'll take Ben White. Do you know what? I have to give Ben White a solid 8 yesterday. At least an 8. Every game he's playing, it's almost an 8 at the moment. He is absolutely brilliant, and he's not just keeping Cedric on the bench. He's keeping Tomiyasu on the bench, and he's arguably one of our best defenders. So I'd give him an 8. You all right with an 8?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Okay. Other side then, Zinchenko.
Again, I'd give him an 8. I thought he was brilliant. I thought he did the tactical job, and he's made the massive difference to Arsenal on a tactical basis, in my opinion. So I think tactically he executes the manager's demands perfectly, and he's just such a tidy, brilliant player. So yeah, 8 as well.
Brilliant. 8. Before we go on, I'll just answer Alex here. Thank you so much for your support, Alex. It feels that the team loves playing with each other. They look like friends on the field. It's a fantastic atmosphere in the dressing room, Arteta. Yeah, it's true. We do look like a proper team. They do look like they're playing for each other. So well said there, Alex. And let us know in the chats what, the scores. Let's go to the centre-backs. I'll take Saliba because I love him. I'm going to give Saliba a solid 8 again. I think he was, he didn't do anything wrong. He done his job that he was meant to do. And he kept Son quiet. He covered for Gabriel when he needed to. He was assured at the back. His distribution was on point generally. So I'm going to give him an 8. You can have Gabriel.
9. Gabriel gets a 9. Let's not forget he is. I know people don't like to hear it as Arsenal fans, right? But Harry Kane is one of the best strikers in the world. I think Harry Kane is an unbelievably good striker. And Gabriel did really, really well against him. Most defenders, when they come up against Harry Kane, they'll give him those moments where he can inevitably get on the score sheet. I think he had one header where he got in between Gabriel Saliba, fine.
Yeah.
And I think Arsenal gave the ball away in that moment. So it was a bit sloppy. And then it's difficult as a central defender to make sure you're in the right place. And then there was that one where he got the shot off as well, that Ramsdale saved. But honestly, I thought Gabriel did really well. He understood Kane's effectiveness when he drops deep to link up the play, and Kane was still able to do that on a couple of occasions, but that's because Kane is world class. So, again, I know people don't like hearing it, but I thought Gabriel did a fantastic job against him, and I don't think Kane's going to want to play against Gabriel in a hurry. I think he really did put in a really good account of himself, so he gets a 9.
I think Gabriel was really started to grow as well as a player in the Premier League. He was a bit rash, but more recently, he seems to have refined himself a little bit, and he's making less errors. I don't want to jinx him again, but he seems to have really grown recently as a centre-back, and he's a bit smarter. So, I agree with you there. Moving on to the midfield, we'll start off with Thomas Partey. I'll take this one. Thomas Partey, for me, Rolls Royce of a midfielder. I know you said it's a cliche term everybody uses, but he covers ground like it's nothing, and he's the job he does. Some teams have 2 midfielders doing that job. The way he seems to just eat up the ground, the way he seems to dominate the midfield. The second goal in particular, Ødegaard's goal, he took out 3 players with one move. Yeah. He got that ball when others would have tried to turn and pass it off somewhere. He just played it off easy, took out 3 of their players, and we were away. I'd have to give him a 9.
Yeah, he was brilliant, man. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because his involvement for that goal was so good. It wasn't just what he did when he got the ball as well. You could see that he was so switched on, so ready to receive that, and the confidence that he had in Arsenal to win that header. I think it was Saliba that won the header. He was straight on it, and he knew exactly where Saka was when he got that ball. Yeah. So he turned in the right direction, played it off nice and easy, sucked Tottenham players in who were trying to close him down, and it was from that they would go and score. But see, he does the unfashionable part there. Saka gets the assist, Ødegaard gets the goal, on the stats, but just players doing the really simple things and being switched on. Saliba in the right place, timing his jump, winning the header. Partey making sure that the important part of that is the second ball, getting it under control and turning defense into attack. Brilliant.
And he does that so regularly. I mean, the passes that he plays, people sometimes don't realize he splits lines with these passes. He takes out 2 or 3 players with just one pass. And he's imperative. He's so important for Ødegaard to tick. So, yeah, I mean, totally agree with you on that. Granit Xhaka, I'll give you, Mo.
Granit Xhaka was really, really good as usual, man. Just very tidy. Didn't do anything spectacular, but got his recoveries in, got his blocks in. I just enjoyed the performance. I really enjoy this new Granit Xhaka that we get to watch at Arsenal now. So I'll give him an 8.
Yeah, honestly, the change around that player has had, the fans, they've hated someone for so long. Let's be honest, we really didn't like. A lot of the fan base really didn't like Xhaka. And now the flip around, it's like we love him. Like it's insane. So fair play to him. Fair play to what Arteta's done with him. Ødegaard is another one. Now, I cannot believe Real Madrid, with an aging Mudryk, have let this lad go at 30 million. Yeah. It's insane. He is unbelievably good. He is probably the best midfielder in the Premier League right now, without a shadow of a doubt. When it comes, people talk about De Bruyne and Bruno Fernandes, but this lad at the moment is on another level. And I'll have to give him a 9. I don't care.
Yeah, I agree with that 9. But you know what? I still think, come on, let's be realistic. Kevin De Bruyne is the best midfielder in the league.
Yeah, but we're talking about form right now, man.
Yeah, current form, sure. But, overall, Kevin De Bruyne is, Kevin De Bruyne.
Well, but you cannot say that Ødegaard does not have the ability to be as good and as consistent if he continues in this ilk.
Absolutely. Look, there's no midfielder that's got more goals than Ødegaard in the league. And I think if you
6
look
away, right? 6 of them away.
When you look at goal contributions as well, Saka is outperforming De Bruyne this season, I think. And or maybe equal or outperforming. So is Ødegaard. Yeah, absolutely, you're right. But I'm just kind of saying that he has to do this for a long, long time to then be spoken about.
He has to have titles under his belt as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But he's doing it, man. He's doing the business. He's absolutely brilliant. He's so tidy on the ball, such quick feet. His willingness to shoot really pleased me in the Tottenham game. He was happy to just get shots off, which is something that we criticise him for. So I was happy about that. And then on top of that, his off the ball is so good. His pressing, his work rate, I absolutely love watching him play. Just a really, really likable, hardworking professional. And I think that's like sums up our team at the minute. No big egos, good, hardworking team players. I love it.
It makes you understand why Arteta's turned around and got rid of some players. If you don't respect me, if you don't want to do things my way, you're out the door. And
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Fair play to the board; they've backed him, and it's starting to pay precedent. You can't, you can't take that away from him. Then you got obviously the front three, right? So you got. I'll go with Saka first. I think Saka was a thorn in Sessegnon's side all game. He didn't know how to handle him. Sessegnon didn't know whether to stop him cutting inside, letting him go outside, as you mentioned earlier on. And the ease of which Saka could go either side is a problem for a fullback, because if you're going to stop him cutting inside, then he's going to go around the outside. If you can't stop him either way, then he's going to be a real problem. And this is a young kid who was voted in the final 11 of the World Cup. Yeah. In a front three of Neymar and Messi, you've got Saka. And this has, you've got to really praise our Highlanders right now, what they're doing. I'll have to give Saka, I'll give him an 8. I have seen him have better games, but I will give him an 8.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who do you want to take out the next two? Do you want to take Eddie, or do you want to take Martinelli?
I'll take Eddie.
Go on then.
Yeah, because I think the Martinelli one is actually a bit tough, but I will take Eddie, and I'll say 7. I thought he played really, really well, but as a striker, you do need to score, right? When you have, and he had 2 really good chances that he did well on. I don't put loads of blame on him for not scoring them, but he had 2 really good chances, and Lloris pulled off the saves. So just for that, I'd say 7, but brilliant. Really happy with him.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And Martinelli, I will have to say, he hasn't been at his best since returning from the World Cup. I will be honest with you. But even when he's not at his best, he still does all the basics that's expected of him, all the hard work off the ball that's expected of him, all the tracking back, all the pressing. And even when he's not on form, he's a problem. And he still did cause Doherty problems. We've got to accept that. And I'll have to probably give him an extra point for throwing the scarf onto Spider Cam, because that is ultimate shithousery. And for those who haven't seen it, here it is. He was throwing the scarf, and it landed. He planted the scarf on Spider Cam, which ran around the ground with the Arsenal flag at White Hart Lane Stadium. So there you go. So I'll have to probably give him an extra point for that. But his general all-round play, I would have given a 7. But Spider-Cam might give him an 8. There you go.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's unfortunate because I feel like I didn't maybe take the opportunities to praise Martinelli enough this season when he's done such amazing work. And since the return of the World Cup, he hasn't been at the level he was before. But he's, in saying that, he's still doing well. He's still doing absolutely fine and helping the team out. It's not that he's playing badly. It's just that, he was so good before. But in a way, I know it sounds a bit counterintuitive, right? But if all of your players are playing brilliantly all at the same time, you think to yourself oh God, what happens when one of them tails off? We're having that question answered now. Martinelli isn't tearing it up to the extent that we know he can, but he will come back round and he will have a spell of really, really good form. And maybe at that point, Ødegaard might drop off or Saka might drop off. So provided you can spread it around, and sometimes you need a bit of luck like that throughout the season for your players to not be off form at the same time. So, listen, man, Martinelli, I absolutely love him. The thing that I would say that I think could really help him is to bring in more variations into his game. I think he's a player that likes cutting inside a bit too much and often comes short. I want to see him give that long option and perhaps come inside off the ball rather than come inside on the ball all the time, and give defenders a bit to think about. If I watch Martinelli from a defensive point of view, I know exactly what I need to do against him. I'm asking my midfielders to cut off the supply to him. When that doesn't work, I just need to make sure I'm positioned as soon as he receives the ball, I'm in the right position, because I know what position I need to take to show him outside, because he loves to come inside, and just block him off there. Now, if he starts running off the ball a little bit more and giving me something to think about, then my position isn't as clear to me before or as he's getting the ball. That's just the one area where I feel like he makes himself a little bit too predictable to defend against. And it's not easy at this level to get the ball and say, I'm just going to skin you relentlessly, because you will get doubled up on, you will get tripled up on. And we have seen other teams do that to Martinelli. I think Newcastle did it really well against Martinelli, where they said, like, yeah, fine, we respect your ability, but what we're going to do, we're going to play in a way that we know how to defend against you, and we know we can get a result. And they did. And he struggled in that game. So more variations, especially movement off the ball, that I want to see from Martinelli.
No, I agree with you there. I mean, he's a young kid. He's still, he will have dips in form. A lot of our young players will along the way, and we as fans have to accept that. It is difficult as we're sort of emerging as this team. Teams are starting to be a bit more wary and sitting back more to try and counter that threat of our wide players getting in behind them. However, what you will get with Martinelli, even when he's not playing well, is that counter threat because of his pace, which we can't really sort of overlook too much, because the two wide players are key to the way we play. And I think the way Zinchenko plays as well, the way he comes in, it's such. Do you know what? I was thinking about this the other day, Mo. Like, obviously, with Pep's tactics over the years, it's been hugely successful. Acquiring Arteta has almost made us jump very quickly as a team into a new realm where the way we're playing and the players that he's had to go and get to fit this system, like your Zinchenko's, we wouldn't have looked at. We were in for Martinez, weren't we? And last minute, we were outbid. We didn't want to go over the odds with the money, and we went for Zinchenko. But he obviously knows the type of players that are required to play in this type of a system. And it's one that's perfected over the years, and it seems to sort of really worked at Arsenal, and it's causing other teams all sorts of problems, especially from a tactical perspective. But I mean, there are a couple of things we need to discuss. Obviously, that did happen at the end of the game as well, because obviously there was, tempers were frayed. Some of our players were celebrating hard. I think Ramsdale was getting it all game from the fans behind him. And, this is something that Ramsdale's now known for, going away, fans giving him a bit of stick. And generally, fans seem to accept it, and they like it. It's a bit of to and fro. It's a bit of sort of pantomime, villain kind of thing. But yesterday, after that game, Richarlison, who had already refused to shake, which was a bit weird for me, Martinelli asking to shake Richarlison's hand while he's about to take a corner. What did he want Richarlison to do? I guess in front of his own Spurs fans. But he'd already been riled with that Martinelli scenario. Then he's obviously seen Ramsdale giving it a bit back to the Spurs fans. He's gone over to Ramsdale. He's pushed him. He's put his hand in his face. Which then obviously a fan has come from the crowd and kicked Ramsdale in the back as he's picking up his bottle. Now, I'd like to hear your thoughts on what you think would happen to us as a team, and obviously on what happened there as well, because we've already had a problem with an FA charge just for surrounding a referee, apparently, which I have seen. Yeah, I've seen happen several times since, and worse things happen. Nothing's come of it yet. What's your sort of thoughts on what happened yesterday, and what do you think should happen?
Well, look, the not that it makes a difference, right? But I think what makes it even worse is that the fan, in his case, he's actually put the scarf over his face. This is completely intentional. It wasn't that he just happened to be there and just in the spur of the moment done something stupid. That was intentional. Covered his face, walked out on the seats, onto the thing, and kicked him. And he needs to it needs to be more than just a lifetime ban from ground. It needs to be more than that. What really annoys me about Tottenham is that they don't control their fans. When Arsenal go, you're walking in a crowd and there's a please see the side of you. And this is at the new stadium where they had the opportunity to make sure that it was safe for opposition fans. And people are throwing bottles, lighters, coins. Doesn't matter if you're a grown man, a child, a woman, a kid, anyone can get hit by these coins. And it just gets annoying. I just think to myself, what are they waiting for? What is to go wrong for them to kind of turn around, for the FA to turn around and say, okay, fine, we're going to throw the book at you until you do something to stop this. And now that it's happened in the stadium, hopefully it can force the issue a little bit and create a bit more onus on the FA to do something about the discipline there, because they don't do anything. And in terms of Richarlison, the FA seem to throw the book at Arsenal very easily when we surround a referee. But I've seen countless teams do that. I am curious now what they're going to do about Richarlison, because that situation could have ended up a lot worse, as I was saying earlier, if Aaron Ramsdale didn't keep his cool. Because I don't think many players can deal with that level of provocation, where Richarlison's pushing his fingers in Ramsdale's face and everything. You shouldn't be put in that situation where if you react, then all hell can break loose. If one fan came and did what he did to Ramsdale, when Ramsdale didn't even respond to Richarlison, can you imagine what would have happened if Richarlison had been punched by Ramsdale or something crazy like that? So that you have to look at what's causing this, what the root cause is. And Richarlison was bang out of order. Like, yeah, you've lost a game of football. Shut up. Deal with it.
No, I just honestly, I agree with you. But before I go into any more, Mo, Wayne, thank you, bro, for your support. Would have loved to sign Mudryk, but I did think Shakhtar was being ridiculous with the valuation. I'm fine with not signing him for the 90 million. We'll go into that in a second. Yeah. Great segue. I agree with you. And a lot of this has to fall on the media's doorstep as well, if you're asking me, Mo, because it just seems like if you look at the situation yesterday, Richard Keys has come out and he started to blame Arteta, the man in the middle, apparently, for inciting our players into doing sort of things to wind other fans up, etc., etc. You were watching the game yesterday. You had Gary Neville desperate for Thomas Partey to get booked at one point, then complaining and saying, Romero didn't like the fact that Martinelli sort of done something with his back to control the ball, etc. Even though it was only a couple of months ago where Anthony needlessly was winding up one of the opposition by doing some sort of 12 for Man United during a game that was, it just seems to me there's a reluctance to give this Arsenal team any credit right now, or even believe that they deserve to be where they are. There's a constant moving of the goalposts. They've got this game coming up. They've got this game coming up. Well, let's see what happens when they play. And every time we answer it, they move the goalposts some more. I'd like to understand, obviously this whole Richarlison thing that the FA charges, it does feel, and I know that we've been accused of this a few times, you guys, it's a conspiracy theory, but you got to look at it and go, we're getting charged for things that other teams are not getting charged for. We're not being given the respect that we deserve, although we're the top team at the moment. Even if we do win the league, another one that's been touted around is it's been a really weak league. Well, I'm not being funny. Well, apparently Man City are one of the best teams in the world, and so are Liverpool, but suddenly we've got a weak league if we win the league. And then on top of that, you've got Gary Neville coming out and saying, well, he still doesn't see us winning the league. He thinks Man City's going to win it. Man United are going to come second. And it all depends on what happens next week. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on how we're viewed in media at the moment and why.
Well, the first thing I'd say on that is I don't care. I really don't care who thinks we're going to win the league or not. And actually, look, if someone said to me, do you want all the pundits out there to be saying that, Arsenal are the favourites, I think Arsenal are going to win the league, etc. Actually, no. I really, really, truly think it suits us more where that expectation isn't being pushed on us. We don't have experience of dealing with the business part of the season, the last 10 games very well. And, never mind when the last 10 games are the run into potentially winning a title. Last year, we couldn't handle it when it was just to get 4th place. So I'm more than happy. It will happen eventually. It will come eventually, but I'm more than happy right now for us to be played down. I think that suits us and where we are in terms of our journey to becoming, hopefully, a title-winning team. So it's all good. When it comes to the FA and the way they treat us, it's just it's weird. It's ridiculous, man. We see teams getting treated so differently, but that's just the standards in this country when it comes to refereeing and how teams are treated differently, how different players are treated differently. So look, so be it, man. I'm not going to complain. We are overcoming it right now. We're top of the league. We're doing brilliantly, and let's just continue to do that. I'm not bothered about external factors and trying to, be a victim about it. We don't need to be a victim about it. Everything is in our destiny. And if you channel it correctly, there was a famous speech by George Graham.
Yeah, 1990.
1991.
Yeah.
Well, 1990, around that era, when Arsenal were charged by the FA and deducted points, if I remember correctly. Never had it ever happened before that a team had been deducted points. And what you need to do is you need to channel that and make the players realize it's us against everyone else. No one wants to see us do it. You can't just be good. You have to be better than everyone else and even better than that, because they're going to do everything they can. And if you can get that siege mentality in the group, it can be very, very powerful if you can harness it correctly.
I think Arteta I think he is doing that. And do you know what? Something I haven't mentioned today as well. How, I have to say, I have to give props to both Saliba and Saka for being one yellow card away from missing these big games. And they've gone through these games without picking up a single yellow and still performed brilliantly. So you've got to give it to this team right now. But look, another thing I was going to say as well, obviously we were talking about the media and how they love waiting for us to falter. We had some bad news before this derby, didn't we? With Mudryk not happening. It seemed like we had it all in the bag. Chelsea have come along, and I'll have to side with Arsenal on this because they've offered this lad a ridiculous amount of money. It's almost like the Chelsea chairman, is it Todd Bowie? Is that his name?
Bowie, yeah.
Bowie, whatever his name. He's got it in his head. Oh, these guys are doing really well right now. Whoever they're going to go for, I'm going to go for. And he's literally just gone in, offered the guy an 8.5 year contract, paying him more than double the salary that we had on the table. We've obviously let him go at that. And I don't think the player himself was happy. But looking at that was very, very disappointing. We showed as a team, look, we've still got a great team here. What do you see us doing moving forward then? And how did you sort of see this whole Mudryk saga? Because I was baffled for a good day or two. I was still shell-shocked by the whole thing.
Look, with Mudryk, right? He's not an Arsenal fan, and he is playing in the Ukrainian league, which obviously is not going to be as lucrative as a Premier League. Any Ukrainian player, let's face it. I'm generalizing. I haven't spoken to every Ukrainian player, but if we're being realistic, every single Ukrainian player would probably love to have a knock on the door saying, this big club from this big European league wants to sign you. It's probably what they're hoping for. And for Mudryk, he's going to go and earn a load of money. Fair play to him, man. I'm happy for him. If you're a player in a smaller European league, this is the dream. If you're a player in South America, this is the dream. So I'm happy for the guy. It's a shame that he didn't come to Arsenal because I did want him. He looks like a real talent. But Arsenal can only plan based on sort of our internal factors. We can't all of a sudden say Chelsea are going to offer this, so now we have to match it, because now you're at the mercy of someone else's budget. That doesn't, you can't operate like that. You can't do business like that. So it disappointed me to see the meltdown from the Mudryk situation, because I think Vinay, Edu, Richard Garlick, Mikel Arteta deserve a bit of respect, because what they have done, we're enjoying that and singing the praises of this team that they have put together. So you can't, on one hand, jump on the bandwagon of Arsenal are great and then all of a sudden be like, oh, these clowns didn't sign Mudryk. It's because of them. Partly because of them. We're so great. So let's give them some respect. They've obviously done a decent enough job so far. When Arsenal signed Aaron Ramsdale, I thought he was going to be our number 2 keeper. So I was criticising the money that we spent on him. They obviously knew something we didn't, right? They knew he was going to be number 1. They knew that they would let Leno go in the style of play, etc. And we form our opinions based on what we know. So at the time, that's what I did. I was wrong. Time has told me that I'm wrong. We've just sat here praising Aaron Ramsdale. So can we give them a bit of slack now? And what more evidence do you need that they deserve that than to be 8 points clear at the top of the league? It's the first time in almost 10 years. So, or maybe more than 10 years. I think maybe since 2004, actually. So since maybe the last time we won the league. Look, Mudryk, it is a bit annoying. It is a bit gutting. But the fact that, Chelsea have offered him such a long contract, that's because they have to spread the cost out over that many years to remain FFP compliant, because the way it works is you divide the wages and transfer fee across the length of contract. So, they're having to pull out all the stops to do that. I don't want Arsenal to go and do business in kind of like that, in that way where it's out of desperation. So now we know we've got 60 odd million to spend. If we go and get Zaha and Tielemans, I'm not going to be complaining. It's all about how Arsenal react now. And we need to stop having the meltdown, because people get so obsessed with transfers. It's not transfers that matters. It's titles, it's points, it's goals. And we can get another player that can give us the goals that transfer into points, that transfer into titles. But I'm happy, irrespective, as an Arsenal fan right now, because look at what we're doing. That's the important thing. So focus on that, not on another team throwing money at a player in a stupid way.
See, I was a bit disappointed with some of the fans' reactions just before the North London derby, because instead of being positive with the team that has got us to where we are at the moment, it's almost like they forgot about the actual team that we're playing on the Sunday and were focused so heavily on this Mudryk saga and started going at the board. And when we started to reveal what Chelsea had put down, I mean, this is a kid that is apparently on 2 or 3 grand a week in Ukraine, and suddenly he's being offered 40 by us. And then someone else has come along. I think it was 100 grand. I've heard someone saying 200 grand, but I think it was 100 grand a week he was offered. But on top of that, what concerns me more, Mo, is the impact it's going to have on transfers again moving forward in the future. If someone's going to act like this, because if they're going to go around and wait for someone like Arsenal to come along and offer. They've done all the scouting, the due diligence, and done everything they're supposed to do. They go and offer a proper good amount of money, like 40k in this instance, and someone just comes along and says, "There you go, we're going to give you 100k, 8.5 years." It is a bit crazy to offer someone this sort of money when he's still unknown. It's a bit mad.
That is just the nature of the beast, man. This is football, and it's not that Mudryk was a hidden gem. He's played well and scored goals in the Champions League. So, that's the biggest European or biggest, club competition there is. So, I'm not too fussed, man. I'm really not too fussed. I would have liked to get him. Don't get me wrong. And is it annoying to be pipped by Chelsea? Of course it is. But
should we have been quicker?
Well, there's only so much you can do, right? So if for example, if at any point, and we don't know this, right? If at any point Shakhtar had said, if you give us this offer, we'll accept it, and we eventually got to that offer but just didn't do it sooner rather than later, then yeah, I'd say we should have moved quicker. But ultimately, if we had offered, what was our maximum, and Shakhtar said no, and then we got trumped, then fine, that's just the way it's going to be. So I'm just not that bothered by it. There's no guarantee that he was going to be a hit. We have to wait and see how much of a regret this will be. But when you look at the top 10 transfers in Premier League history, right, it's not as it doesn't work out as well as people think. There's a lot of flops on that list. It's a really, really interesting piece of analysis to do. And Mudryk, for the figures that we're quoting, may well have been on that list. I'd have to go and check exactly, what the figures are. But yeah, listen, man, maybe we'll look back and say, not dodged a bullet, but, we're lucky it hasn't worked out. We're lucky that, it didn't work out. And maybe we'll turn around and say, Gutted that we missed out on him, and Chelsea have got a bargain. Who the hell knows? All we do know is we are top of the league, 8 points clear. We've just beaten Tottenham for the first time in 8 years, kept a clean sheet. We've got the best away record in the league. We're smashing it, man. So
No, I agree.
I don't have the energy. I don't have bad vibes to direct at the club right now when things are going this well. And I'm surprised anyone else does.
No, I agree with you. And there's a lot of defining factors as well. Maybe Mudryk would have been the type of player we were expecting him to be had he got the coaching maybe with Arteta and played in a system that Arteta foresaw him playing in a particular position. It could be that him going to Graham Potter's Chelsea, which is a bit uncertain, has an adverse effect on his development. You just don't know. So we need to move forward. But, I mean, very quickly, who else can we see? That you said the right name for me, because for me, I think we've got to move fast right now, and it's got to be a short-term fix rather than someone long-term that's unknown at the moment. And Zaha, for me, is a name that has come up quite a few times, and I think he would have an impact for Arsenal in the latter stages of this season. And I've actually been watching him, and I think he's still playing really well. I'd have him over Trossard, which is another name that's been mentioned. Moussa Diaby is one that's been mentioned from Leverkusen, but he's an unknown entity at the moment. He's starting to develop, but he's got a couple of years on a contract, so he would be quite expensive. I don't know. I mean, some people want Zaha, some people don't. I mean, I personally would go for Zaha and another midfielder. You're saying someone like Tielemans.
Look, I would. My worry is that if we do get an injury in that central midfield position, then it's a bit of a scary thought, because Partey and Xhaka, my God, they're so good. And we do see a drop-off when one of them aren't in the team. On the other hand, looking at the forward line, Zaha, as far as I'm concerned, look, he's Premier League proven. He's got an element of motivation that not many others will have with his failed Man United stint. This is his last chance at 29, I think he is. It's his last chance to make his mark in the Champions League. Well, obviously, seems like Arsenal are going to qualify for the Champions League, and to prove that he can cut it in the big time. I think he'll be very motivated. Attitude-wise, that's something that we don't see, but I feel like I don't see any problems with his attitude now.
No.
I think there was a question before, but I think he seems fine. The Trossard one confuses me, actually, because I never would have seen any attitude problem with him, but that's why he's been dropped right now. So that concerns me. We don't want any troublemakers. The only thing with Zaha is that he doesn't fit the profile of our transfers, being 29. But when we've got a title to win, and he's a Premier League proven player with, a load of goals in the Premier League, and, coming to the end of his contract at Palace, I think it could be a really, really sensible signing. So I would be happy. I'd take Zaha. If anyone can come up with any other players that they've got in their mind,
please let us know. Yeah,
let us know. But I can't think of many that would be more. No player's a guarantee, but I can't think of many players that I'd be more confident in than Zaha, given his Premier League experience.
Mitoma's a name that keeps coming up on people because he has been pretty impressive these last few months. But again, who knows? But it would be interesting. Keep an eye out for the transfers. I mean, we've got a couple of weeks left. We've got to do some business, in my opinion. The one thing that could derail this Arsenal team is lack of depth. That's the only thing I'm concerned of right now. We need strength in depth. Moving forward then very quickly then, Mo, Man United, the next game we've got. At the Emirates, they're on form. We're on form. It seems like the old rivalry of United Arsenal could be starting to flare back up. How do you see the way United are playing at the moment? Do you fear them? Are they playing as well as people are saying? Have they been quite fortunate? I mean, what's your thoughts on United, and how do you see it going at the Emirates?
Look, they have been fortunate, but Man United have been fortunate for the last flipping 30 years. That's just Man United, So they are playing well. They really are. Erik ten Hag, he is a good manager, man. And he was a manager that I would have been happy with if Arsenal had got. And I think he's just proving that. Now that they've got rid of, the crybaby on the bench, they look like a proper team that respects the manager, that gets behind the manager. Rashford is on fire. Bruno Fernandes had a really good World Cup and seems to be carrying that form into the league as well. They are playing really, really well. Lisandro Martinez doesn't even start. Casemiro playing really well. I think that the game could hinge on which of those two players, Thomas Partey or Casemiro, has an amazing performance, because they are the two best central defensive midfield players in the league so far this season, and there's conversation starting already in terms of which one deserves to be in sort of team of the year. But how can you bet against Arsenal? We haven't lost a game at home all season. Our worst result was 0-0 at home to Newcastle. As well as Man United are doing, I have to be confident with Arsenal, and I think that we can get a result. So it will be an interesting game, man. It will be tough. How do you see it going?
Well, you see, I think our wingers they're gonna struggle. Their fullbacks are gonna struggle with our wingers. I really do. I know Casemiro is a quality DM, but I think they're gonna struggle. I personally see Partey dominating the midfield. I really do. I think Casemiro is good. I just think Partey's got a little bit of a physical edge on him in the Premier League. And also the way that we play. It'll be interesting to see how United counter the way Zinchenko drops into midfield and makes an extra man, and how they line up, because that's going to make the difference, I think. If they leave Ødegaard in those pockets where he's used to operating, I think that Arsenal will get on top of them. It wouldn't surprise me. It might be a draw. United could probably say to themselves, well, let me ask you this, let me throw it back at you. Do you think United will come to try and get 3 points to get themselves back in the title race? Or do you think United would be happy with getting a draw like Newcastle were?
I think they would be happy with getting a draw, personally.
You think so?
I really do, yeah. Because, look, you look at a team, and Man United will think, took 3 points off them at our place, get 1 point away. It's a good return from Arsenal. Arsenal got to play Man City twice. So that lead will... Do I think we're going to get 6 points when we play Man City? And they get nothing? Probably not. I think Man City and Man United will both be thinking, yep, Arsenal will drop points this season. When Europa League kickstarts again, that's another factor as well. So I don't think Man United will want to let that lead that we've got get too far. And I think they'll take a point. I think when you look at the way Arsenal have been playing, when you look at our home record, we have respect in the league now. I
personally think Arsenal are going to try and win this game.
Yeah, I think
they're going to go all out. They want revenge. They're the only team. I mean, listening to Saliba talking in an interview recently, it's the only team that Arsenal have lost to. That game we shouldn't have lost either. I think Arsenal, this is a new Arsenal. I'm seeing a team that will go for the jugular here. I really do. I think Arsenal are going to go for it. I don't think United are capable of sitting back and defending like Newcastle. I think they have attack-minded players also. They will try and attack us. I think their pride will make that inevitable at some point. They'll still try and be cagey and catch us like they did. They might even try and play the same way they did at Old Trafford, where we were the dominant team, but they just capitalised, hoping they'll nick a couple of goals off us, like they did last time. But I don't know. I see us winning this. I really do. I see us winning it. What's your prediction for it, Mo?
1-0 Arsenal.
1-0.
1-0.
So you think it's going to be a cagey affair?
I just do. I think Man United... I think, Arsenal will definitely try and win it. But I think Man United will make it very difficult for us. And I think it's going to be a close game. A really, really good game.
I'll go 2-1 Arsenal. Let us know in the chats as well. Mo, you got a couple of minutes if anyone want to ask some questions?
Of course, always. All
right, if you guys want to throw any questions in the chat, do so now. You've got a couple of minutes. Let us, ask Mo whatever you want. Ask me whatever, you want to ask me. I'm not sure why you would want to ask me over Mo, but, crazier things have happened. By the way, the João Felix thing. I mean, he did look a player when he came on, didn't he? For Chelsea.
God, yeah, but so funny, absolutely hilarious the way that ended. Absolutely love that.
He was the best player. So you know what? He was the best player on the pitch. Everyone here, I'm looking at what people are saying here.
He was brilliant.
Dave Jules is saying, Lev, is Nketiah better than Richarlison now? Time to admit it. Did I ever say that Nketiah wasn't better than Richarlison? Well, you know what? This is another thing I was thinking about. How crazy is the World Cup? Because someone like Richarlison gets to start for Brazil in the World Cup, but doesn't get on the team that's not scoring like Spurs, and he hasn't even scored a single goal since he's signed. And then you got Martinelli, who's a starter for Arsenal, and Gabriel, who's a starter for Arsenal, and Saliba as well. I mean, it's crazy.
It is, but that's the thing. It's all about styles. It's like it's not just enough to just say, "Oh, this player is better than this player, so this player is going to play." It's all about styles, and that's why sometimes you see Tierney playing, sometimes you see Zinchenko playing, because you have to adapt to the opposition a little bit. That is modern football and modern management. Arteta does it really well.
Dave, just to answer your question with regards to that, yes, I still do think we need a backup striker. I mean, look, what happens if Eddie gets injured? It's not like Eddie's scoring. What if he's not doing, we need another forward player, in my opinion, and we'll soon see. This is an interesting one. Demarai Gray. How do you feel about Demarai Gray, Mo? Because I tell you what, he is a dangerous player, but he's the end product.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think he's shown the level of consistency that would attract a big team to go for him, personally. So it's a no from me.
Fair dues. Okay, well, look, I mean, you guys are clearly struggling to give us options in the transfer window. There's not that many at the moment. Please, if you haven't hit the likes already, last I checked, there was only 25 likes, and there was like 300 people in this chat at one point. If you're happy about the Arsenal result yesterday and you hate Tottenham, please click the like now. What happens if Partey gets injured? Our side. Well, that's the thing we're worried about right now.
Yeah, and that's why we mentioned Tielemans earlier, because perhaps it could be worth just securing him whilst he's available. Because
if you had to make a choice between and get only one signing for the rest of the season, would it be a backup for Partey or a forward?
I think it'd be a forward.
Really?
I think so.
And you would take the chance that Partey didn't get injured?
Yeah, because the thing is, look, if Nketiah gets injured, then we are literally screwed. So I think there's better coverage in the midfield area, because Zinchenko can play there. Let's not forget that. El Neni, Lokonga, not that they've kind of given me enough confidence that they'll step into the required level. But if Nketiah gets injured, I'm like, crap, we need to recall Balogun. Recall Balogun. Yeah, that's the best option. It's it's just too much of a risk. So I would go for the forward line there. And then also on the forward line, they can play in other
Martinelli.
areas.
We could play Martinelli on the 9, can we? Yeah. I don't know. It's a strange one. It's a difficult one for me because I am very aware. With Emile Smith-Rowe coming back, you've almost got another winger there, or another 10, or he can even sometimes he can even play an 8. You have got the option to play Martinelli in the 9. I think the worst thing that could happen, and I don't want to put it out there, is that Partey gets injured. So I'm torn with that one.
The thing is as well, though, with Jesus, I don't want to be in a position where we have to rush him back, and because I don't want to risk more chance of injury when a player is vulnerable and they've just returned. So I'd rather we go and get someone. We're going to need that, especially next season in the Champions League, hopefully, and with a team like Arsenal now. If we can keep this up, we're going to go far in competitions, and for that reason, we need a stronger squad.
No, well, hopefully we'll address both. I mean, someone's put something in here that surprised me. Danilo. I'm surprised we didn't go for Danilo at 20 million, who's going to Forest, because he could have made some sort of a backup. But then the question is he any better than what we have on the bench at the moment? I guess I'm not sure. That's something that needs to be answered. But look, I'm looking forward to ESR coming back. I think people have really been sleeping on him. I think if he could stay fit, he's going to surprise a few people. He'll be up there just as pivotal as the likes of Martinelli and Saka. So let's see what happens. But look, we've got Man United playing Palace first, aren't they? Away, is that right?
Yep, exactly.
So let's hope they drop a couple of points or even 3 points in that game.
And then Man City are playing Tottenham at home. So some big games before we face off against Man United.
It's in our favour that they're playing before us as well, because we can know how to approach the game, couldn't we, Mo?
Well, I think we just want to win, right? But I always worry It's second time it's happened now, and Arsenal responded brilliantly. So Man City drop points, and then we have a big game. The first time it was against Brighton, when I think Brentford was it Brentford? No, it was someone else. But we played Brighton after Man City dropped points, and it was a case of, all right, how do you respond to that pressure? We did brilliantly. And now again at Tottenham, Man City have dropped points. How do you respond to that pressure? All eyes on Arsenal to bottle it, and we do a really good job. So. Yeah, I feel like that's just not going to change how we approach the game. We're just going to go there and try and get the 3 points.
I think as a young team, that early heartache as a squad has really galvanized this team. They're a lot stronger as a team. What happened last season has really put them in good stead here. And you're right. So far, I've been waiting for Arsenal as a fan that's used to seeing Arsenal teams of old having to go and get a result and flopping. And this team are not doing that. So long may it continue. We've been going at this for an hour and 10 minutes. Please, you guys in the chats, hit the likes if you haven't already. Keep your notifications on. There's other shows that will be coming up this week, and there's some new ones coming up soon as well. Mo, is there anything you want to add before we go?
No, just check out my match reaction. A very, very happy, passionate one. And check that out on my channel if you haven't already. Subscribe, all of that stuff. And yeah, listen, man, just can't wait for the next game to come round. These days, it's just, every single game when it comes around, I'm positive, I'm excited, I'm impatient in between games. I've longed for it to feel like this for a long, long time, and loving every minute.
Yeah, I'm the same, and so is my son. He's loving it too. Very quickly, someone's asked a valid question. Do you devalue the Europa League now we're in this position because of our thin squad that we have? Do we play a lesser squad team in Europa and focus on the league? Or what do we do here?
Good question. I think if you've got a real title running and you feel like there's like conflicting priorities, then yes, you just have to do it. Let's say, for example, you've got. Well, I know we've already played Forest at home, right? But if you've got Forest at home on the weekend, you've got Europa League game, then you can maybe try and manage it a little bit. But if you've got a tough away game, if you've got Liverpool away and you've got a Europa League game before it, I'm prioritising the Premier League. But we have to go on all fronts. We have to say, let's try and win both. That's just what you have to do. I'm never going to accept Arsenal kind of saying, oh, no, we can't do both. Get in the transfer market, make your squad robust enough.
Perfect. Well, there you go. So listen, it's been enjoyable talking about this. Again, another podcast where we're talking about a great performance from the day before. We will be back to full strength hopefully next week. Tom will be back. Shaheen will hopefully be back as well. So keep an eye out for up-and-coming shows. That's it, guys. I mean, thank you for joining us. Let's keep an eye on the window. Let's hope we strengthen before the next big games come up, and let's keep that title charge going, Arsenal. And to those Spurs fans who haven't even bothered texting, North London will always be red. And that's the end of that. So peace out. This has been the Arsenal Lounge. We're out of here.